In a busy shopping mall in Dublin, where the sound of conversations mixed with the echo of hurried footsteps and the laughter of children playing, life followed its usual rhythm. It was an afternoon like any other, with families enjoying their free time, couples strolling hand in hand, and groups of friends laughing loudly as they chose snacks in food courts. However, in the midst of this seemingly banal routine, something extraordinary was about to happen. Conor McGregor, the legendary Irish fighter known for his bravery inside and outside the octagon, was there, walking discreetly among the people, enjoying a peaceful moment away from the spotlight. Few knew that day would be marked not by a victory in the ring, but by an act of courage and compassion that would change a single father's life forever. The call to adventure came unexpectedly. As McGregor was browsing the windows of a sporting goods store, trying to decide which pair of boxing gloves to buy for his next training session, he heard raised voices coming from the central area of the mall. Curious, he approached and noticed that a man, visibly nervous and exhausted, was surrounded by two security guards and a group of onlookers. The man, who was carrying a small child in his arms, appeared to be in a delicate situation. His eyes reflected despair and frustration as he tried to explain something to the security guards, who seemed inflexible. It was at that moment that McGregor felt something inside him, a kind of protective instinct that impelled him to intervene. He didn't know it yet, but that decision would place him at the center of a story that would be remembered by many. As he approached the scene, McGregor realized that the man surrounded by security guards was a single father, trying to explain that his situation was not one of threat, but of desperation. He had entered the mall with his young son, looking for a moment of distraction amid the difficulties of everyday life. However, a simple argument about inappropriate use of a public restroom had quickly escalated into an accusation of misconduct. Security guards, following strict protocols, were determined to expel him from the premises, without considering the circumstances or the fact that he was accompanied by a child. The father, exhausted and embarrassed, tried to argue, but his words were muffled by the authority imposed by the uniforms. McGregor, known for his assertive stance and commanding presence, did not hesitate to intervene. He walked over to the group, positioning himself next to the single father, and addressed the security guards calmly but firmly. "This man has a child in his arms," he said, with a tone that mixed authority and empathy. "Do you see this? He's not a threat. He's a father trying to survive." His voice echoed throughout the room, capturing the attention of everyone around him. Some onlookers began recording the scene with their cell phones, while others just watched, torn between curiosity and uncertainty about how it would end. The tension in the air was palpable, and McGregor knew he needed to tread carefully to prevent the situation from spiraling further out of control. As McGregor and the single father's story continues to unfold, it's impossible not to reflect on the power of small gestures of empathy. Moments like these remind us that we all have the potential to make a difference in the world around us, regardless of who we are or where we come from. If you're enjoying this inspiring story and want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell. This way, you will be notified whenever we publish new videos full of exciting stories and important reflections. Also, leave a like on this video to help us reach more people and spread this message of solidarity. Your participation makes all the difference. Security guards, initially surprised by McGregor's intervention, tried to justify their actions, arguing that they were complying with rules and protecting public space. They mentioned that the father had been seen using a bathroom reserved for people with disabilities, something that was strictly prohibited. McGregor, however, was not intimidated. He asked the single father directly for his version of events, giving him the opportunity to express himself. The man explained that his son was feeling unwell and that he had no other option but to use that bathroom, as the others were occupied or dirty. "I just wanted to make sure my son was okay," he said, his voice breaking. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble." His father's narrative deeply touched McGregor, who had already faced similar difficulties in his own life before achieving success in the sport. He knew what it was like to fight against adversity while trying to care for those who depended on him. This feeling of empathy strengthened his determination to help the man. McGregor turned to the security guards again and asked them to reconsider their position. "These rules are there to protect people, not to punish them when they are in vulnerable moments," he argued. "You can see that this father is not a criminal. He is someone who is doing the best he can under the circumstances." Meanwhile, the surrounding crowd began to position themselves. Some supported McGregor, agreeing that the single father deserved understanding, not punishment. Others, however, defended the security guards, claiming that the rules should be followed regardless of the circumstances. This division of opinion created a tense climate, but it also brought to light broader questions about empathy, justice, and the role of social norms in complex human situations. McGregor realized that this was not just a dispute between a father and security guards, but rather a reflection of dilemmas that many people face on a daily basis. Determined to resolve the situation, McGregor suggested a practical solution. He himself offered to cover any fines or costs associated with the incident as long as the single father was released without further complications. This proposal surprised everyone, including the security guards, who seemed reluctant to give in. However, McGregor's presence, combined with mounting pressure from the crowd, forced them to reconsider their stance. After a few minutes of hesitation, they finally agreed to end the incident, allowing the single father to continue at the mall with his son. The victory, however, wasn't just for the single father. For McGregor, that moment represented something bigger, the opportunity to use his influence to make a difference in a real situation outside the ring. He knew that gestures like that could inspire others to be more compassionate and understanding in their own lives. At the same time, he recognized that the fight for empathy and justice was ongoing, and that every small action could contribute to a better world. With the incident resolved, the single father, still visibly shaken, deeply thanked McGregor for his intervention. He confessed that in recent months he'd been facing financial and emotional difficulties after the divorce, and that moments like that at the mall were reflections of the daily battles he faced in raising his son alone. His voice shook as he talked about the times he felt like the world was against him, but there was also a glimmer of hope in his eyes now. McGregor, with his characteristic stance of confidence, placed a comforting hand on the man's shoulder and said, "You're doing an incredible job. Don't give up. I know how hard it is, but you're not alone." These simple but meaningful words touched not only the single father, but also many of the spectators watching the scene. The previously divided crowd began to unite around the message of solidarity that McGregor had conveyed. Some people reached out to offer support to the single father, from words of encouragement to practical gestures like helping him find a quiet place for him and his son to rest. Others began to reflect on their own attitudes in similar situations, wondering whether they had been as understanding or empathetic. McGregor's act had sparked something deeper, a collective transformation in how people perceived the challenges faced by single parents and individuals in vulnerable situations. He had turned a moment of conflict into an opportunity for everyone to learn something valuable about humanity. Meanwhile, the security guards, initially rigid and inflexible, also seemed to have changed their perspective. One of them shyly apologized to the single father for the way the situation had been handled. He admitted that sometimes rules can be interpreted too rigidly, ignoring the human context behind them. This apology, although small, was a significant gesture that demonstrated the impact a single person can have by challenging the status quo. McGregor, observing this interaction, smiled discreetly, knowing he had planted a seed of change, even in who initially appeared to be the opponent. McGregor himself, despite being used to dealing with intense pressure inside the octagon, felt a different sensation at that moment. He realized that his strength wasn't just in his muscles or fighting skills, but in his ability to inspire and positively influence those around him. That mall experience was a powerful reminder that a hero's true legacy is not measured by the victories he achieves in competitions, but by the lives he touches and transforms outside of them. He knew that day would be remembered not only by the single father, but also by everyone who witnessed the event and was impacted by the message of empathy and compassion. As he left the mall, McGregor continued to reflect on what had happened. He thought about the countless times he himself had faced trials and difficulties on his journey, and how these experiences shaped his determination to never give up. Now he clearly saw how these same lessons could be applied to other areas of life, especially when it came to helping others. He decided he would make more efforts to use his public platform to highlight important social issues, such as supporting single parents and vulnerable families. For him, that afternoon at the mall was a call to expand his role as a leader and influencer, taking his message beyond sport. The story of the meeting between McGregor and his single father quickly gained repercussions on social media. Videos and reports of the incident began to circulate widely, sparking discussions about empathy, social justice, and the role of norms in complex human situations. Many people praised McGregor's action, highlighting it as an example of how public figures can use their influence to promote positive change. Others shared their own stories of challenges faced as single parents or caregivers, creating a chain of solidarity that reached beyond mall barriers and reached thousands of people online. For the single father, that day marked a new chapter in his life. He left the mall with a new perspective, feeling less alone on his journey. McGregor's words echoed in his mind, reminding him that he didn't have to face everything alone and that there were people willing to support him. He decided that just as McGregor had done for him, he would try to reach out to other single parents who might be going through similar difficulties. He began attending local support groups and sharing his story, becoming a source of inspiration for others himself. The scene at the mall also served as a powerful reminder to society that small acts of kindness can have a huge impact. McGregor, by intervening in that situation, showed that it is not necessary to be a superhero to make a difference. Sometimes all it takes is a word of support, an act of empathy, or a willingness to look beyond appearances. He proved that anyone, regardless of their position or fame, can be an agent of change in their community. And in doing so, he inspired others to follow his example, creating a virtuous cycle of compassion and solidarity. We have reached the end of this incredible journey that showed how a simple act of courage can transform lives and inspire entire communities. The story of Conor McGregor defending a single father at a mall is a powerful reminder that empathy and compassion are forces that can change the world. If this story touched your heart as much as it touched ours, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and be part of this community that values positive and impactful messages. Also, don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends and family. Together, we can amplify these lessons of humanity and inspire even more people to act with kindness and compassion in their everyday lives. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.